Hey, what's up, everyone? Sean here with BlueRidgeSilverhound. Thought I'd go ahead and toss a quick little, really cool video. Haven't done one of these ever, so I thought I'd go ahead and share a little bit about what you can find stuck to your coin. Now, we come across a lot of coins with a lot of foreign matter that is either on it superficially or it's actually embedded into the coin. So, there could be a couple things going on here. It could actually be post-mint type of stuff, crap that's been added to the coin. We've seen things like corrosion that's right on the coin, in addition to grease and dirt and various other things. Sometimes you'll see a little piece of tape stuck to it, and you're probably wondering, oh, is that a legit error or not? All right, so we're going to kind of cover the bases of what you can possibly find out there while going through coins, okay? And it doesn't matter if it's going through like coins out of circulation, coin roll hunting, that sort of thing, or perhaps maybe, finding something really interesting at a local coin shop, or maybe online on eBay, something you could cherry pick that maybe nobody else knows what they have. So yeah, prepare to embark on this video where we talk about crap you could find stuck to your coins. It might actually be the biggest find that you have for the year, if maybe not for a long while more than that. So let's go ahead and check things out. Just about every single coin's graded here. I could confidently say that they're all attributed correctly. Specifically, we're going to talk about retained strike-throughs and something called inclusions. You may not probably have heard of the term inclusion, but there are a couple different inclusions that you need to know about. It's going to be very important. All right, so let's go ahead and start out with the first coin, which you've already previewed there on the front screen. Now, check this out. This is a relatively newer coin. It's a 2010 Lincoln Shield set. So, yeah, there's something right there, right smack dab in the middle of that Lincoln cent, right on Lincoln's neck area. This is actually a retained strike through. That kind of looks like it might be a grayish, I don't know, some sort of debris of some sort. Could be a little piece of plastic. Could be a piece of zinc that had fallen off somewhere from another coin or whatever. I don't know what it is, but it's retained on there, and it's a non-standard part of the coin. That's something you guys need to keep in mind. So every time you find one of these and you're able to attribute them correctly, a lot of them you will probably need to send to a grader like, I would say even Annex. Annex, for its value, for how cheap it is, would probably be one of the better grading companies to send these particular coins to. And they'll let you know right away if you have something or you don't. But this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is on a relatively newer coin. And a lot of these I haven't talked about. They could sell for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. So they are quite the chase piece. This one just so happens to be graded by NGC, as you can see there, typed up on the label. It's a retained struck through error. This one just so happens to grade out Mint State 66 red. And strangely enough, it has first day of issue. So someone had found this thing within the first few weeks of circulation of 2010 Lincoln Shield cents. So that's pretty neat. A lot of these coins either had sold on like Great Collections or Heritage Auctions, or they're currently still available on eBay. So you could check out any one of those three sites, and more than likely you'll come across these coins. The next one that we have here is incredibly cool. Again, a relatively modern dated coin. This is a 2007D. This is a Denver minted Washington quarter. That is Washington State. Go figure. But what do we have there on the obverse? Well, actually, we have small little retained little pieces of copper wire that's embedded right into the coin. Wherever this copper wire had come from, probably from a bristle brush or something, like some sort of a grinding wheel or something like that. Yeah, kind of like a Dremel, not so much a grinding wheel, but something that will, that cleans some components to the mint press and the dies and all that. So there were a couple little copper bristles, I guess, that had fallen onto the dies, and then a planchet was inserted into the striking chamber, and voila, you have this beauty here. So those are a couple of pieces of retained copper wire. This one right here is graded by Annex as a mid-state 64. This coin, I would venture to guess, is probably worth somewhere in that $500 to $1,000 range. I believe this one is available on the open market. I'm not sure. I didn't quite take notes on whether or not these are still for sale, but again, the possibilities, guys, on newer coins, you just never know. Just don't throw these away thinking that they're damaged or scratched. Because we do know for the clad composition of coins, they are a copper nickel clad composition. All right, so yeah, this is a really, really incredible looking piece right here. The next one that we have right here is probably one that a lot of you may have come across, but at the same time, it could be misdiagnosed as something else. But this right here is a retained struck through fragment. You can actually see it right on the reverse. At first glance, it looks like just a retained lamination piece, and that's kind of like the misdiagnosis of what this is right here. But in reality, that piece is raised off of the surface of the coin, and based off of the appearance of that little piece there on the reverse of this Morgan dollar, it looks like a detached lamination from another coin or planchet that had fallen onto the reverse die before this next coin was struck. So during the striking process, with all of that pressure, that piece gets pushed right into that strike and into that coin right there. Kind of, fun, hard to believe that the piece had retained all these years, but that is indeed a retained fragment, probably from a lamination. That's what that looks like there. Also graded by Annex as an AU58. So it did see a little bit of circulation. And again, Annex, you're going to see a little bit more Annex graded stuff. Because of the cost, it just makes it a lot better, to send it to them, as opposed to like PCGS where they charge you like $65 a coin. Annex will be about less than a third of that, so quite a bit more economical. All right, much like the Washington quarter that we had seen earlier, this is a 1937 Buffalo nickel. Yes, the coin has circulated. Again, at first glance, this coin looks like it could have been damaged, right? Someone will say that, oh yeah, someone smacked a wire, hit it with a hammer, and it embedded into the coin. I mean, you just never know. But the thing that you have to remember is there's no other damage around that anomaly on the obverse of that coin. So always think about the process, okay? If it's post-mint, you'll know right away. You're going to see a lot more damage that occurs on something like this that's done outside of the mint than one if it was struck during the minting process. So this is a small little piece of steel wire that had been struck onto the coin. Yeah, it's embedded. It's also retained. This one right here, retained, struck, and wire. So it's an AU50. With the wires, you'd be surprised. A lot of them do stay retained even throughout circulation. Again, the mint presses force a lot of pressurization on the strikes that really pushes these foreign objects into the coin. And they can live in there for a long, long time. So that's a pretty neat one there. All right, so this one is extraordinary. Okay, furthermore, this is on a proof coin. This is a 1977 S Ike Dollar, which has a struck through retained. I guess that's a copper staple, if I remember right. But yeah, can you imagine going through your proof sets and seeing this thing in there? This is a redonkulous coin. I can only imagine something like this would fetch many thousands of dollars. This was an old sale on Heritage Auctions. In today's market, I don't know how much it sold for, like $3,000 or something. This one would probably get close to about $78,000 in today's wacky, zany error market. But yeah, that is a pretty nutso kind of error there. So there you go. Copper staple is what they used here for the strike through. And it grades out Proof 67 Deep Cameo through PCGS. You can't get any better than that. All right, and then the last craziest strike through that I wanted to talk about is going to be on this Calvin Coolidge presidential dollar coin. This one is actually struck through a bluish plastic fragment is what they call it. Yeah, that's a piece of plastic that had fallen on there. Not knowing what the origin source of that plastic is, could have came from anywhere, but that thing was on the it was on the probably the blank planchet before it was struck. I just can't think of how else it would be struck on there, but that is gnarly, and it's like a translucent kind of piece of plastic, because you could kind of see right through it a little bit. Pretty crazy. And with any good strike through, the strike through will also imprint the design devices right onto that piece of fragment there. So yeah, this is the last strike through. Pretty crazy as it seems. You just never know where you're going to come across these. I can imagine that this was probably found in a either a mint roll or a bag that was distributed by the mint, because there were a number of years where the presidential dollar coins stopped circulating. Okay, they stopped producing them for circulation, and then they kind of tabbed them as NIFCs. So you just never know where you come across these things. This one's pretty insane. This one's NGC graded as a mint error, mid-state 67, obverse struck through. So there you go. It's a 2014 piece. So that's Philadelphia Mint boo-boo right there. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit of something different, okay? And this is what they call inclusions. This is, I would say, what they refer as an inclusion is in which metal of a non-standard composition somehow resists melting or otherwise manages to maintain its integrity within the molten alloys. So throughout the process in which the ingots are produced and then these things are rolled out into sheets before the planchets are made, somewhere in the process, there's some sort of fragments that end up falling superficially onto the rolled out sheets of metal, and they just get punched out, into planchets, and you're gonna have these on the surface type of inclusions. Okay, so this is done during the either the smelting process or the rollout process of the sheets before the planchets are punched out of there. These are not strike throughs. They don't occur during the striking process because they were already on the planchets before they were produced. So this one right here has what they call copper inclusions. They're really quite small, and this is going to be something that a lot of people will overlook, and that's okay. This one is actually quite minor compared to some of the other ones I've seen, but there are a couple tiny little copper little fragment inclusions that are embedded into the coin right here. And again, those are little inclusions that had fallen onto the raw substrate at some point before the planchets were punched out. So that's what we have here. This next coin right here is going to be a slag inclusion. Okay, so for those of you that aren't aware of what a slag inclusion is, I'm actually going to give you the definition on Error Ref, which is a website for error terminology. So all the credit for this particular definition goes to them. So the earliest point at which foreign matter can insert itself into a coin is when the molten alloy is poured into a mold for the ingot. During smelting, unwanted contaminants float to the top of the molten metal in the form of slag. the slag is supposed to be skimmed off before the alloy is poured into the mold for the ingot. If small pieces of slag remain behind, they can end up in the ingot and persist there through all the subsequent steps of the minting process. And that includes rolling, blanking, upsetting, and striking. So throughout all those processes of producing the planchets. So that's what slag is for those that aren't aware. But you're going to see slag appear on coins. I mostly see a lot of these on silver. So any 90% silver, I've seen quite a few of these on Morgan dollars. I've actually cherry picked a few with some of the slag inclusions on there. They're actually not too terribly difficult to find, but they're going to come off as kind of like a grease appearance type of smear that's actually embedded into the planchet or coin. So make sure when you come across these, and you might want to actually check some of your old silver, that's what you're seeing here. And the next one that we have here is actually one that's currently on eBay as a raw example. This is another inclusion. This time it's a non-standard metal that was that either was on the ingot throughout the process of the rolling, blanking, and things like that. Usually with these bronze pieces, there was a little bit of tin, but there's also some tin that maybe had fallen on top of it and didn't quite mix into the alloy properly. So at first it looks like it could be a woody alloy, but with a woody alloy, which is normally an improper alloy mix, you're not going to see it heavily concentrated in one section like you do here. A woody type of wood graining affects a good chunk of the coin rather than just these very light streaks that you see here. So that's what that one looks like there for another inclusion. You might even go on a limb and say that this is what they call an intrinsic metallic inclusion, where you have a completely different kind of composition or metal that somehow, some way had contaminated the surface at one point through the process. But, with any bronze coin, it is copper and a little bit of zinc. So that's the main composition. So when you have a little bit of that zinc that's concentrated and maybe not quite properly mixed, some would call that an inclusion as well. Here's a little bit of a close-up of that slag inclusion, if you guys wanted to check it out right there. As you can see, even affects a little bit of this rim as well. But yeah, that's a quite strong piece right there for that particular error. And the inclusions, compared to, say, the strike-throughs that we saw earlier in the video, aren't nearly as held high in the error market in terms of value. Okay, so inclusions, while they're pretty neat, for whatever reason, they just don't hold quite the candle that regular strike-throughs do, because strike-throughs is actually applied during the minting process. Somewhere in there, it enters into the striking chamber as a foreign object. All right, so that's kind of why it's more highly regarded as a much more valuable and desired piece. Is that they could get pretty crazy. You've seen some struck through like springs and things like that. We've seen emery boards get struck through on silver eagles. So yeah, a lot of crazy stuff that you could find on these that could be part of the minting process or during the smelting process, all the way up to the upsetting and striking procedures for the coins. I hope I didn't lose you guys. There's a lot to unwrap with the strike-through stuff, and it can confuse you a little bit if you don't know what you're looking at. And if you guys have questions, go ahead and pop them below in the comment section. I'll try and address your guys' inquiries on something like this. But hey, we're heading into the weekend. Maybe this will give you another thing to look for. Yeah, thing in air quotes. Among a bunch of other things that I've talked about with you. It's pretty crazy. And, this is something that, again, will stump a lot of people because it could either look like damage or it really is a monumental type of error. And a lot of them, again, are quite expensive. The more crazy and gnarly that strike through is, the more that the collective error community will want to pay for such an item. So something to keep in mind. But that's going to go ahead and do it for this one. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. I will see you guys sometime this weekend for the PCMR. We're going to talk about, more crazy error and variety market type related stuff. And you never know. A pretty cool strike through or an inclusion might be added to the list. We shall see. But that's it, guys. You guys take care. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy your weekend. And I'll see you later on the next video. Take care.